You don't walk into a room, you arrive. There's a difference, and most men will never understand it. When a king steps through that door, the air shifts, conversations drop, eyes move. Something in the room recalibrates, because power doesn't announce itself with words, it announces itself with presence. And presence isn't something you're born with, it's something you build, brick by brick, decision by decision, silence by silence. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince as a fairy tale. He wrote it as a manual, a cold, precise, unforgiving manual for men who were serious about power. Men who understood that the world doesn't reward the good, it rewards the prepared. Today, I'm going to show you how to carry yourself like a king across 4 pillars: your mind, your mouth, your moves, and your money. Master these 4 and you become something rare. You become untouchable. This isn't motivational fluff. This is architecture, the architecture of a man who cannot be manipulated, cannot be rattled, and cannot be ignored. If you're ready to build that man, comment, "I am the king," right now, because kings don't just watch content, they become it. Number 2, control your mind. The throne room within. Before you can control anything in this world, any room, any relationship, any outcome, you must first control the 6 inches between your ears. That is the real throne room, not an office, not a mansion, not a title. Your mind is where your kingdom either rises or collapses, and most men have surrendered that throne without even realizing it. They've handed it over to social media, to opinions, to fear, to the desperate need for approval from people who haven't built anything worth respecting. Machiavelli understood something that modern men are too distracted to see, that the most dangerous battlefield is internal. Your enemies don't need to defeat you if your own mind is already doing the work for them. Every time you spiral into self-doubt, every time you react emotionally instead of strategically, every time you let someone else's words live rent-free in your head, you are handing your throne to your enemy and smiling while you do it. A king thinks in outcomes, not emotions. He doesn't ask, "How does this make me feel?" He asks, "What does this position me to gain?" He doesn't react to chaos, he studies it. He doesn't fear pressure, he uses it like a whetstone, letting it sharpen him while lesser men crack under the weight. The Stoics called it the inner citadel, a fortress of the mind that no external force could penetrate unless you opened the gates. Machiavelli called it virtù, the disciplined will to act with precision when the world demands panic. You need both. You need the Stoic's calm and the prince's cold calculation running simultaneously in your mind at all times. Train your mind like a weapon, protect it like a kingdom. Because a king who loses his mind first loses everything else second. Comment, "My mind is my empire," if this is hitting different right now. Number 3, control your mouth. Silence is a weapon. The most powerful thing a king can do in a conversation is nothing. Absolute silence. Controlled, deliberate, weaponized silence. Most men cannot stop talking. They fill every gap, every pause, every moment of tension with words. Because silence makes them uncomfortable. Because they need to be heard. Because somewhere deep inside, they're still that boy, desperately trying to prove himself to a room that wasn't even paying attention. And that weakness, that inability to shut up, has destroyed more men than any enemy ever could. Machiavelli warned us clearly, words are cheap, and men who speak too much reveal too much. Every sentence you don't need to say is a card you don't need to show. Every opinion you keep to yourself is a weapon your enemy cannot prepare for. Every time you resist the urge to defend yourself, to explain yourself, to justify yourself to people who have already made up their minds, you are operating at a level they cannot reach. Because here's the cold truth that most men will never accept. Nobody respects a man who needs to be understood. They respect a man who doesn't care whether he's understood or not. Kings don't explain their vision to people who lack the eyes to see it. They don't debate their worth with people who lack the wisdom to measure it. They don't argue with fools in public because the audience cannot always tell the difference between the fool and the man correcting him. Your mouth should be a vault, opened only when the words inside are worth more than the silence you're breaking. Speak with precision. Speak with purpose. Speak only when your words will either build something, destroy something, or move something forward. Everything else is noise, and kings don't make noise, they make moves. The man who masters his mouth masters the perception others have of him, and perception in this world is everything. It is the invisible crown that either sits on your head or gets knocked off by your own loose tongue. Guard your words like a fortress guards its gates. Let only what is necessary pass through. Comment: silence is my sword right now if you understand what I just handed you. Number 4. Control your moves. Never let them see you coming. A king never moves without intention. Every step is calculated. Every decision is deliberate. Every action is the result of a mind that has already played the game 3 moves ahead while everyone else is still reacting to what just happened. This is the essence of Machiavellian strategy. Not cruelty, not manipulation for its own sake, but the cold, disciplined art of moving through the world with such precision that your enemies are always one step behind and your allies are always one step ahead. Most men are reactive. Something happens and they respond immediately, emotionally, impulsively, without thinking about consequences, without considering the chessboard, without asking the most important question a strategic mind can ask. Who benefits from my reaction right now? Because here's what the weak never understand. Chaos is manufactured, drama is engineered, provocations are designed to pull you off your throne and drag you down to a level where you can be controlled, where you can be manipulated, where you can be made to look small. And every time you take that bait, every time you move out of emotion instead of strategy, you are dancing in someone else's choreography without even knowing the music was playing. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must be both the lion and the fox. The lion to crush what stands in his way, and the fox to navigate what cannot be crushed. Power is knowing which one the moment demands. Strength without cunning is just aggression. Cunning without strength is just deception. But when you combine both, when you move with the quiet ferocity of a lion who has already mapped every exit before walking into the room, you become something that neither friend nor enemy can fully predict. And unpredictability is one of the greatest sources of power a man can possess. When people cannot predict you, they cannot prepare for you. When they cannot prepare for you, they cannot stop you. When they cannot stop you, they have no choice but to respect you. Study your environment before you engage it. Study the people in your life before you trust them. Study your own patterns before you commit to them, because your habits are either building your kingdom or quietly burning it down while you sleep. Never move out of desperation. Never move out of anger. Never move to prove a point to someone who isn't even worth your energy. Move only when the move serves your vision, advances your position, or eliminates a threat before it becomes a crisis. That is how a king moves. Not loudly, not hastily, not emotionally, but with the quiet, unstoppable momentum of a man who already knows where he's going and has already decided that nothing in this world will stop him from getting there. Comment: I move in silence, I arrive in power, if you felt that in your bones. Number 5. Control your money. Wealth is your armor. Let me tell you something that the broke and the bitter will never admit out loud. Money is not just currency. Money is language. It is the language of options, the language of leverage, the language of freedom. And a king who does not speak that language fluently is not a king at all. He is a prisoner wearing a crown. Most men have a deeply broken relationship with money, not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack talent, but because they were never taught to see money as a tool of power. They were taught to see it as a reward for obedience. Show up, work hard, follow the rules, collect your check. And somewhere in that cycle of obedience, they lost the most important thing a man can possess, his financial sovereignty. Because here is the cold, uncomfortable truth that Machiavelli would tell you without apology. A man who depends on others for his financial survival can never truly be free. He can never speak his full truth. He can never walk away from what dishonors him. He can never make decisions from a place of pure strategy because every decision he makes is shadowed by the question he is too afraid to ask himself. Can I afford to? That question is a chain. And chains, no matter how golden they appear, are still chains. A king builds his financial life like he builds his kingdom, with architecture, with intention, with long-term vision that refuses to be seduced by short-term pleasure. He does not spend to impress. He does not buy status symbols to fill voids that money was never designed to fill. He does not confuse looking wealthy with being wealthy, because one is a performance and the other is a position, and kings hold positions. They don't perform them. Machiavelli understood that financial independence is not just about comfort, it is about power. It is about having the ability to act without permission, to move without asking, to build without begging. Every dollar a king saves is a soldier in his army. Every investment he makes is a fortress being constructed on new territory. Every unnecessary expense he eliminates is a weakness being removed from his armor. He thinks about money not in terms of what it can buy him today, but in terms of what it can build him tomorrow. Because wealth is not a destination, it is a weapon. And like every weapon a king possesses, it must be maintained, sharpened, and deployed with precision. Study money the way you study your enemies, obsessively, patiently, without emotion. Understand where it flows, why it flows, and how to position yourself in the path of that flow. Build multiple streams because a king never relies on a single river to sustain his entire kingdom. Live below your means, not out of poverty consciousness, but out of strategic discipline, because the man who controls his spending controls his future, and the man who controls his future controls his life, and a man who controls his life answers to no one. Let that sink in, no one. Not a boss who underpays him, not a system designed to keep him dependent, not a relationship that uses financial pressure as a means of control. A financially sovereign man is a dangerous man, dangerous to every structure that profits from his dependency. Build that danger. Cultivate it deliberately, protect it fiercely, because your money is not just your security, it is your silence when you need to walk away, your strength when you need to stand firm, and your crown when you need to remind the world exactly who it is dealing with. Comment, "My wealth is my weapon," right now, because if this section just rewired something in your mind, I need to know you were here for it. Number 6. The power of isolation. Kings build in silence. There is a moment in every serious man's life where he has to make a decision that the world around him will not understand, will not support, and will not celebrate. A decision to pull back, to go quiet, to disappear from the noise and the crowds and the endless performance of social life, and to retreat into something far more valuable than applause. Himself, and the men who have the courage to make that decision. The men who choose depth over distraction, construction over consumption, solitude over the shallow comfort of constant company. Those are the men who eventually emerge with something that cannot be faked, cannot be borrowed, and cannot be taken. Power that was built in silence. Most men are terrified of isolation. They mistake it for loneliness. They confuse solitude with failure. They see a man who has stepped back from the social circus and immediately assume something must be wrong with him. Because in a world addicted to visibility, a man who chooses invisibility makes everyone deeply, unconsciously uncomfortable. But that discomfort is not your problem. That is their addiction revealing itself. The truth is that isolation is not a punishment. It is a laboratory. It is the place where a king strips away every distraction, every opinion, every external voice that has been crowding out his own instincts, and he finally gets alone with the only voice that actually matters, the cold, clear, strategic voice of his own sovereign mind. Machiavelli spent years in exile, stripped of his position, removed from power, cast out from the very city he had served. And what did he do in that isolation? He wrote The Prince. He transformed his exile into architecture. He turned his silence into one of the most powerful manuscripts on power and strategy the world has ever read. That is what a king does with isolation. He doesn't survive it, he weaponizes it. He uses the quiet to study what others are too distracted to see. He uses the stillness to plan what others are too reactive to think about. He uses the absence of noise to hear the signal clearly, the signal of his purpose, his direction, his next move. Think about every man you have ever admired for his power, his composure, his unshakable presence. I guarantee you that behind that presence was a season of isolation that nobody photographed, nobody applauded, and nobody knew about until the results became impossible to ignore. Because greatness is not built in the crowd, it is built in the cave. It is built in the early mornings before the world wakes up. It is built in the late nights when lesser men have already surrendered to comfort. It is built in the deliberate, disciplined, unglamorous hours of a man alone with his vision, refusing to let the world's timeline dictate his own. Guard your solitude like a king guards his most strategic territory. Be deeply selective about whose energy you allow into your space, because energy is contagious, and a man surrounded by people who are comfortable with mediocrity will find mediocrity slowly, invisibly infecting his own ambitions, not through one dramatic moment, but through 1,000 small surrenders disguised as socializing, relaxing, just having fun. Kings have fun. Kings enjoy life. But kings never confuse recreation with construction. They know the difference between a moment of rest and a life of drift. They know that every hour spent in genuine isolation, reading, thinking, planning, building, is an hour invested in a version of themselves that the world is not yet ready for. And when that version finally arrives, the world will not be able to look away. Pull back, go quiet, build in the dark. Let them wonder what happened to you. Let them speculate, let them talk, let them misread your silence as defeat. Because while they are busy watching your absence, you will be busy constructing your arrival. And when you return, and you will not return as the man who left. You will return as something they do not have a name for yet. Something composed, something calculated, something that carries the unmistakable weight of a man who went into the fire alone and came out forged. Comment: I build in silence, I rise in power. Right now. Because if this section just gave you permission to embrace your isolation without apology, then you already understand something that most men in your life never will. Number 7. The art of reading people. Never be surprised again. A king is never blindsided. Not because the world stopped being unpredictable, not because betrayal stopped existing, not because people suddenly became honest and transparent and safe, but because a king has developed something that most men neglect entirely. The cold, precise, almost surgical ability to read people before they reveal themselves, to see the move before it is made, to understand the motive before it is acted upon, to recognize the mask before it slips. And this skill, this dark, essential, underrated skill, is the difference between a man who is constantly reacting to what people do to him and a man who has already anticipated it, already prepared for it, and already positioned himself 3 steps ahead of it. Most men are shockingly naive about the people in their lives. They take words at face value. They confuse kindness with loyalty. They mistake proximity with alliance. They see a smiling face and assume a clean heart, because they are projecting their own intentions onto others, measuring everyone else by the standards of their own honesty. And that projection is not noble. It is dangerous. It is a vulnerability that the wrong people will exploit without hesitation and without remorse. Machiavelli was ruthlessly clear on this. Men are driven by self-interest. Not all men, not always, but enough of them, enough of the time, that a wise man never forgets it. This is not cynicism. This is calibration. It is the ability to see human nature clearly, without the distortion of wishful thinking, without the fog of emotional attachment clouding your strategic vision. Watch what people do, not what they say. Words are the cheapest currency in human interaction. Anyone can construct a sentence designed to make you feel safe, feel valued, feel chosen. But behavior is expensive. Behavior costs something: time, energy, sacrifice, consistency. and a man who watches behavior over time will learn more about a person's true character than 1,000 conversations ever could. Study the people around you the way Machiavelli studied his political rivals, dispassionately, systematically, without the need to immediately judge or react. Watch how they treat people who can do nothing for them. Watch how they speak about others when those others are not in the room. Watch what they do when they think no one is paying attention, because that is when the mask loosens, when the performance drops, when the real architecture of a person's character becomes briefly, beautifully visible. Learn to read body language, not as a party trick, but as intelligence gathering. The way a person holds their posture when you enter a room tells you how they truly regard you. The way someone's eyes move when they are constructing an answer tells you whether they are remembering truth or manufacturing it. The micro-expressions that flash across a face in a fraction of a second before the social mask reassembles, those are data points, and a king collects data points the way a general collects intelligence before a campaign. Never operate on assumptions. Never make decisions about people based on who you want them to be. Make decisions based on the evidence of who they have consistently, repeatedly, undeniably shown themselves to be, because people tell you exactly who they are. Not in the grand dramatic moments, but in the small, unguarded, ordinary ones that most men are too distracted or too emotionally invested to notice. And once you have truly seen someone, once you have stripped away the performance and looked directly at the pattern beneath it, you cannot unsee them. You now possess something priceless: clarity. The cold, liberating, strategically invaluable clarity of a man who knows exactly who is standing in front of him and can therefore decide with precision how much access, how much trust, how much of his sovereign energy that person deserves to receive. Some will deserve your full alliance. Most will deserve your polite distance. A few will deserve nothing but your awareness of their presence and your refusal to turn your back. Categorize people not with cruelty, but with accuracy. Not out of paranoia, but out of the deep, disciplined self-respect of a man who understands that his inner circle is his most strategic asset, and that the wrong person inside that circle can unravel in months what took years of isolation, sacrifice, and silent construction to build. Protect your circle like a king protects his court. Audit it ruthlessly, upgrade it consistently, and never, not once, let sentimentality override your intelligence when the evidence is already sitting directly in front of you. Comment, "I see clearly, I move wisely right now," because the man who masters the art of reading people stops being a victim of them forever. Number 8. The Code of Loyalty. Who deserves your kingdom? There is nothing more expensive in a king's life than misplaced loyalty. Nothing. Not a bad investment, not a failed strategy, not a lost opportunity. Because money can be rebuilt, strategies can be revised, and opportunities have a way of returning to a man who is prepared for them. But time given to the wrong people, energy poured into those who were never truly in your corner, that cannot be recovered. That is gone, permanently, irretrievably gone, and the painful reality that most men refuse to confront until the damage has already been done is this: not everyone who is close to you is loyal to you. Not everyone who smiles with you is building with you. Not everyone who calls you a brother, a friend, a confidant has your actual interests anywhere in the architecture of their intentions. Some people are in your life because of what you represent to them. Some are there because of what you provide. Some are there because your proximity gives them access, gives them status, gives them a reflection of success they have not yet earned for themselves. And the moment you stop being useful, the moment your season of struggle arrives, the moment you make a decision that no longer serves their agenda, you will discover with brutal, clarifying precision exactly what that relationship was actually built on. Machiavelli understood loyalty not as a sentiment, but as a structure. He distinguished clearly between those who are bound to a prince by necessity and those who are bound by genuine allegiance. And he warned, with the cold precision of a man who had been betrayed by his own city, that the difference between the two is invisible until the moment of crisis arrives, and by then it is usually too late to reposition. So a king does not wait for the crisis to reveal his court. He studies his court before the crisis. He tests quietly, observes patiently, and withdraws strategically. Not with drama, not with accusations, but with the silent, methodical intelligence of a man who is auditing his kingdom with the same ruthless precision he applies to every other domain of his life. Real loyalty is rare. Understand that first. Accept it without bitterness and without the naive expectation that everyone around you is operating at your level of integrity. They are not. Most people are loyal to their own comfort, their own advancement, their own survival. And there is nothing inherently evil about that. It is human nature. But a king who forgets that human nature exists is a king who will be perpetually surprised by it, perpetually wounded by it, perpetually rebuilding from betrayals that a clearer, colder, more strategic version of himself would have seen coming from miles away. Now, who deserves your loyalty in return? This is the question most men never ask because they are too busy trying to earn everyone else's approval to stop and evaluate whether the people they are loyal to have actually earned theirs. A king extends his loyalty not based on history alone, not based on how long someone has been present, not based on shared memories or emotional connection, but based on demonstrated, consistent, repeated evidence of alignment. Do their actions support your vision or quietly undermine it? Do they tell you the truth when the truth is uncomfortable? Or do they tell you what maintains their access to you? Do they celebrate your growth genuinely, or does your success create a tension in them that they can barely conceal? Do they show up in your difficult seasons with the same energy they bring to your successful ones? These are not emotional questions. These are strategic assessments. And a king makes them without guilt, without apology, and without the crippling fear of being seen as cold or calculating. Because the alternative is a kingdom populated by people who were never truly loyal to it, slowly eroding everything from the inside while wearing the face of friendship. Shrink your circle without announcement. Elevate your standards without explanation. Extend your deepest loyalty only to those who have paid for it in the currency that actually matters. Consistent, unglamorous, pressure-tested action over time. And to those rare, extraordinary individuals who have proven themselves in the fire, the ones who told you the truth when lies would have been easier, who stayed when leaving would have been more convenient, who protected your name in rooms you were never in. To those people, be a king in return. Be immovable in your loyalty. Be ferocious in your protection of them. Be the kind of man whose alliance is so valuable, so rare, so strategically and emotionally fortifying that they consider it one of the defining privileges of their life. Because a king who inspires that quality of loyalty from even 2 or 3 people in his lifetime has built something more powerful than any empire made of stone. He has built a brotherhood forged in trust, and that is the foundation that no enemy, no circumstance, and no season of adversity can ever fully dismantle. Comment: loyalty is earned, not given right now. Because if this just made you think about your circle differently, that clarity alone is worth more than you know. Number 9. The untouchable mindset. When they can't break you, they fear you. There is a version of you that nothing in this world can reach. No rejection, no failure, no betrayal, no public humiliation, no season of loss, no opinion, no criticism, no carefully constructed attack on your character or your confidence. A version of you that absorbs everything, every blow, every setback, every attempt to diminish or destabilize, and converts it, quietly and without performance, into fuel. That version of you is not a fantasy. It is not reserved for a chosen few who were born with unshakable confidence and iron composure. It is a construction, a deliberate, disciplined, painstakingly built psychological architecture that any man with enough commitment and enough self-awareness can erect around his mind, his identity, and his sense of self-worth. But it requires something that most men are unwilling to pay: the complete and total surrender of the need for external validation. And that price is higher than most men realize, because we live in a world that is engineered, deliberately, systematically engineered, to make you dependent on approval. From the moment you were old enough to understand praise and punishment, you were being conditioned to perform for the crowd, to adjust yourself based on reactions, to measure your worth by the feedback of others, to need the nod, the like, the applause, the recognition, to feel legitimate. And that conditioning runs so deep in most men that they don't even recognize it as a chain. They experience it as personality. They call it caring what people think. They dress it up as humility, as social awareness, as emotional intelligence. But underneath all of those polite disguises, it is still the same thing. A man whose internal state is being controlled by forces outside himself, and a man whose internal state can be controlled from the outside, is a man who can be broken from the outside. He can be broken with silence. Withhold the approval and watch him spiral. He can be broken with criticism, land the right words in the right wound and watch him collapse. He can be broken with rejection, remove the acceptance he has been performing for and watch his entire identity destabilize. But the untouchable man, the man who has done the brutal, unglamorous, deeply uncomfortable work of building his worth from the inside out, that man cannot be reached by any of those weapons. Because those weapons only work on men who need something from the people wielding them, and he needs nothing, not your approval, not your understanding, not your validation of his choices, his vision, his path, or his identity. He has already validated himself, not out of arrogance, not out of delusion, but out of the deep, earned, evidence-based knowledge of a man who has been tested, who has survived, who has looked directly at his own darkness and his own weakness without flinching and decided that he is still unequivocally worth building. Machiavelli's prince did not govern by seeking love. He governed by commanding respect. And he understood the critical distinction between the two. Love can be withdrawn. Love is conditional, emotional, subject to the shifting tides of other people's moods and needs and agendas. But respect, true, deep, almost involuntary respect, is earned through consistency, through composure, through the unmistakable signal that a man sends when he refuses to be rattled, refuses to be reduced, refuses to perform distress for an audience that is secretly hoping to watch him break. When you stop reacting to provocations, people become uncomfortable. When you stop explaining yourself to critics, they become confused. When you stop chasing the approval of people who were never genuinely in your corner, they become irrelevant. And when you reach the place, the cold, quiet, sovereign place, where another person's opinion of you genuinely carries less weight than your own assessment of yourself, something changes in the way the world interacts with you. People sense it before they can articulate it. They feel the absence of neediness in your presence. They detect the stillness of a man who is not performing, not proving, not seeking. And that stillness, that self-contained composure, triggers something primal in the psychology of every person who encounters it. It triggers respect. It triggers caution. It triggers the involuntary recognition that this man operates by a different set of rules. Rules that were written not by society, not by fear, not by the desperate need to belong, but by a man who sat alone in his own silence long enough to author his own code and commit to it with his entire being. That is what makes a man untouchable. Not wealth alone, not status alone, not physical dominance or social influence or any external marker of power that can be stripped away by circumstance. What makes a man truly untouchable is the unshakable, internally anchored, pressure-tested knowledge of exactly who he is and the absolute refusal to become anything less, regardless of what the world demands, offers, threatens, or takes away. Become that man, not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, not when the world finally gives you permission. Now, in the middle of the chaos, in the middle of the uncertainty, in the middle of whatever season you are currently navigating, Decide right now that you are no longer available to be broken. Decide that your identity is no longer a negotiation. Decide that your peace is no longer a luxury, but a non-negotiable standard that you protect with the same ferocity a king protects his most vital territory. Because when they cannot break you, and they will try, they always try, they will have no choice but to fear you. And fear, in the cold language of power that Machiavelli spoke so fluently, is the beginning of respect. Comment: you cannot break what was built in fire right now, because if this just shifted something fundamental in how you see yourself, that shift is the foundation everything else gets built on. Number 10. The final code. Now go build your kingdom. You have arrived at the end, but understand something. This is not a conclusion. This is a commencement. Everything you just absorbed, every word, every principle, every cold and precise truth that landed somewhere deep in the architecture of your mind. None of it means anything until you carry it out of this moment and forge it into action. Machiavelli did not write for men who nod and move on. He wrote for men who apply. Knowledge without execution is just entertainment. And kings are not entertained, they are transformed. You now carry 4 pillars: mind, mouth, moves, and money. Guard them, master them, build with them daily, quietly, without apology, and without permission. The world will not make space for your kingdom. You will have to claim it, brick by brick, decision by decision, silence by silence. The throne was never going to be handed to you. It was always going to be built by you. So go build it. Go become the man this world cannot ignore, cannot manipulate, and cannot break. Comment, "I am the king," one final time. Let that be your declaration, not just to this channel, but to yourself. If this video forged something in you today, like it, subscribe to Machiavellian Mind, and turn on notifications, because what comes next will take you even deeper. Your kingdom starts now.